Good evening. Today is the third day of December 2016, and we are very pleased to have Pashi Kapoor with us. I've known Pashi for many, many years and worked with him, and am happy that he's agreed to talk to us tonight about how he first heard about Mother and Sri Aurobindo and all the questions I have to ask. Pashi, namaste.
Namaste.
How did you first hear of Mother and Sri Aurobindo?
It's very funny, okay? In spite of the fact that I lived in Kolkata, and not very far from where I lived, there was also a birthday exhibition of Sri Aurobindo's. Yet I did not register, I did not recall any connection at all. But a moment came when I was looking for a suitable system of education for my children. I didn't want them to go into the normal middle class, upper middle class schools. I wanted a value-based school.
And this was now what year?
1968.
68.
And I had attended a few lectures of Jadu Krishnamurti. I was quite impressed, and I had heard about his Rishi Valley educational experiment. So I'd written to him seeking an appointment at Rishi Valley to chat with him and also to seek the admission of my two children. And I was given an appointment when he was in station. So from Kolkata, I came to Chennai, spent the night with a colleague of mine. And when I mentioned to him why I was going to Madnapalli, he said, if your children come south, of course I'll have to look after them. So why do you want to take your children to Rishi Valley, that's far away? There's a very nice education system close to Chennai, Pondicherry. So I said, look, I don't have enough time to do the two places. So he says, for my sake, do Pondicherry now and you can go to Krishnamurti later. So that's what he accompanied me. We came to Pondicherry and I met the registrar of the school at that time, Kirit.
Kirit, yes, yes.
So I asked him, like any parent would, a few questions. And I said, would you explain what is the educational system? And he says, why don't you go and have a look around yourself? So I waited for a minute. He smiled and he said, what are you waiting for? I said, I thought you'd send somebody with me to go and have a look at the... No, he said, just walk around.
Around the school?
Around the school.
Ah.
Fine. So I peep into one room, I peep into another room, and what do I see? 7, 8 children. Either they're having a conversation with the teacher, or the teacher is explaining something, or they're sitting quietly doing their work. 7, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, no more. Very unusual experience for me because my class used to be 45 to 50 students.
Ah, yes.
So then I dared walk into one of the classrooms and I sat down at the back bench. And suddenly one of the children raised a hand to draw attention of the teacher and asked a question. I don't precisely remember now, but asked a question. And teacher looked up and says, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. Can we go to the library and have a look at it together? My God, my dream come true. If this is the kind of an education, this is what I want children to be in. Came back, I had a round of the sports ground, also the playground. Okay. So finally came back to Kirit and I said, I like what I see. So I have 2 children, one is 8, another is 10. So I would like them to be admitted to the school. So he pulled out 2 forms and gave them to me. So I said, what are the fees like? He said, there's no fee. like the Christian missionary schools. I said, is there a donation? No, there's no donation. So I said, sir, please tell me why thousands of parents are not lined up here to get their children admitted to this wonderful institution which costs nothing. No, there is a small charge if the child is in the hostel, 150 rupees a month. Peanuts. So my next question was naturally, what is the selection criteria? This is the first time I hear the name. The mother decides.
I see.
I look up back of his table. This is a picture of Sharon and the mother. So I said, you mean this old lady? So he nodded his head and he smiled. I said, well then, I wonder, I think you are grown up enough to be able to take decisions on the educational policies yourself. Why this old lady has to be bothered? Well, he says, that's it. So I said, well, if you don't mind, can I have an appointment with her? So he says, well, she gives darshan 4 times a year. Frankly, I thought I've come to a madhouse. I told my friend, I said, let's go. I mean, I don't know the rationale. On one side, there's such a beautiful system. Also, the supporting activities, physical activities, and so on. So, but I saw.
Oh, you saw that too?
Yeah. And yet, I mean, there's an old woman who sits there quietly, sees public 4 times a year, and she has to decide who has to come and who has not to come. I said, it doesn't make any sense to me. So, he was a devotee. He was very upset. Of course, my remarks were not very
your
polite.
Friend.
Yeah.
Your friend was a devotee?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he wanted to go to Samadhi, asked me to come with him. I said, it's your problem, not mine. I wait for you in the car, so you go and do your thing and come back. And poor chap was getting more and more frustrated with me. I don't blame him now as an afterthought, but at that time I couldn't care less. Then I suddenly felt that I have gone a little too far. So I said, look, I'm a bit confused, to be honest with you, and that's why my remarks. I can't relate rationally between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is there something I can read about it? So he took me to Sabda. So Nawaz's younger brother was in charge at that time.
Mm-hmm. What was his name? M? Started with an M?
I was trying to recollect. It will come back and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I said, most of the ashrams have devotees write about their gurus. In your case, have your gurus written anything themselves? So his pat came the reply, prose or poetry? So I said, poetry is beyond me, prose will do, but suggest something which gives me the gist of this situation. He says, that's called Life Divine. Okay, I'll have it. 3 volumes. Okay, I'll have 3 volumes. Okay. Wrapped it up, paid, walked out. So at least I pacified my friend to a certain extent. But I don't think I pacified him sufficiently. Because on the way back to Chennai, when we are close to the airport, he says, look, I'm dropping you at the airport. I'll send your luggage back with the driver. So you better go wherever you want to go, but I don't want you to come and spend the day with me.
Oh, he was upset?
Very upset. Okay. Fine. Now, 3 hours to spend at the airport waiting for an aircraft. I had nothing else to read. So I opened to read The Life Divine. And perhaps that was the moment that changed my life entirely. I read it like a novel. You wouldn't believe it. And I was understanding, I may not have understood a word or two, but I understood the sense altogether completely as somebody who has rationalized my own thinking. It was a kind of a immediate understanding. It took me 2 or 3 weeks to read the 3 volumes. Then I was started looking for somebody in Calcutta to get me an interview with the mother because I had a few questions to ask. So I put them on a notebook. So I discovered that there was a Aurobindo Society branch there. So I started going there to try and make friends, found somebody eventually, and persuaded him to get me an interview with the mother. So that happened in April 1968. 21st of April was the date, if I remember correctly now. So since I was new to this thing, I requested this gentleman to accompany me. So we flew together the night before. The next morning, the time given by the mother was 7:03 a.m. Right. My friend, again, being a devotee, he had got up, had his bath, gone to the samadhi, came back with a bouquet of flowers. So woke me up, got me ready, and then gave me the bouquet. And he says, when you go and see the mother, offer her the bouquet. I said, look, I have come here to get a few answers. I'm sorry, but I'm not devotional. Okay. And then he says, she loves flowers. Okay. So I took one. So I said, I'll offer it to her. So I was there on the spot, I think 10 minutes before. So I was called in, 7:03 or 7:05. I have to look at the watch, but it was called in. And as I entered the room, she looked up and our eyes locked. The only thing I remember of that is that I had my head in her lap and she was stroking it. I don't remember anything else. How it happened, how long it took, how did I walk to and put my head in her lap. I haven't any recollection till today. Lifted my head, she locked the eyes again, put her hand on my head, and I was crying. Right? Just walked up, the tears rolling down. I just, like a zombie, walked down, sat down in the meditation room, and cried my heart out. That was it.
I know the experience.
For me, no more words. Okay. So and that is when this friend of the chap who had brought me introduced me to Navjat and my first introduction to Aurobindo.
Oh, I see. Because 68 was just beginning.
Yeah, well, it was February,
Foundation?
and it was April.
Oh,
that
yes,
I had
so
come.
a couple of months.
So I was shown the brochure of Aurobindo, a little bit of explanation, and suddenly it occurred to me, this is what I've been always looking for. So I immediately volunteered to offer my services to do whatever is possible whilst I'm still in Kolkata to help this project.
You had your own business there?
No, I was a senior executive of an MNC, multinational engineering company. It's actually a British company. And I was the director and chief executive at that time. So they were planning to construct Bharat Niwas at that time. So I was asked to go and see Shyam Sundar. So I went and met Shyam Sundar. So he says, look, we will be needing steel. And there was at that time a restriction on steel. There was a committee that allotted seat to various projects and so on and so forth. So I was asked if I'll take up that work. And I discovered that that committee that used to meet had their offices in Tata's building, which was in the same street where I lived. So for me, it was convenient, and I knew some people in Tata Steel anyway, and therefore I accepted. That was my first task for the mother. And then I started coming regularly, till it happened that I was here virtually every month for a week or 10 days.
What about your children?
I forgot them. I forgot them. And I was keen to come to Aurobindo. So I started through Nava, requesting mother to give me the permission to come to Aurobindo. And once or twice he also took me to the mother to make a personal kind of a thing. Till my birthday next year, which incident I mentioned to you,
Yes.
and if you like, I will
Yeah, please tell that
repeat it
experience.
again.
Wonderful.
Because I had written to Nava saying that 8th of March is my birthday and I want to come for my first darshan. Okay. And Nava wrote back to me saying that mother has not commented on your request. So I was a bit taken aback, and I telephoned him and I said, will you please again make a request? Okay. So he used to regularly go to her in the morning. So then I telephoned him after a few days and said, she says, come on 27th of March. So I was here on 26th to be ready to go to her on 27th of March. But I was a bit curious at that time. So when I went back, my mother was still alive at that time. So I asked her, do you remember the date I was born? She says, I remember the time, I remember the year, but the date was of Indian calendar. So I started searching for somebody, these people who tell fortune and so on and so forth and write your... So finally I found somebody who said he knew how to correlate the British calendar with the Indian calendar, and it turned out to be 27th of March. For me, it was a miracle. And I started relating my birthday from then onward to 27th. And then I again renewed my request. Can I come to Aurobindo? And her answer was not yet. So that was the first time positively she said, not yet.
Do you remember something of your birthday going
No.
to mother? Again, same thing.
You see, I used to go absolutely blank. Unless she broke that spell. I mean, I always felt under spell. Nothing to say, just to stand humbly. Then I asked Nava, why mother is
Not yet, yeah.
that? What does it? She says, who knows the mother's ways? Okay, fine. I carried on. I mean, whatever work was allotted to me, out of that was also to collect monies on behalf of Sri Aurobindo Society to bring it here for Aurobindo and so on and so forth. So my frequency was there once a month, 7 days, 10 days, 7 days, 10 days. And since I had a charge of a company where I didn't have to account for my time, this was absolute privilege I misused, if I may use the term. Then came 1970, and I was staying in Shelter Guest House, if you remember that guest house, above the restaurants and all that presently. Okay. And I sat down and wrote a project. Because I had understood by that time that ashram-related organizations, besides Sri Aurobindo Society, had a number of centers all over the country, like study circles. I, being a vital person, I felt that these study circles should be put to some kind of an activity in the form of Karma Yoga. So this was a 28-page program that I wrote. and gave it to Nava to present it to the mother and see whether she would approve of it. And then I went back, and after about a month or so, I received frantic calls from Nava and others that mother wants to see you. Come immediately to Pondi. So the time I got the information was late at night, but anyway, the next day I flew to Pondicherry, and the day after. And in the meanwhile, I was asking Nava, what does she want? And she said, no, that, that project that you wrote, she wants to see you about it.
This is what year?
1970.
Okay, 70.
Yeah. Okay, so what does she want to know? What has she asked? Simply said, call him. Who has written this? Call him. This was another moment I think I'll cherish all my life, because the time given was about 7:30 or so. I and Nava went up. In the meanwhile, some emergency road, and mother had to call a meeting with Nalini and one or two others. So I was given a signal to go, so that this meeting could be held. So I was just leaving, and mother looked up and she raised her hand, asked me to stop. I just stepped back into the corner, just concentrating on her. I don't know how long it took. When the meeting was over, Nava went out. I said, but somehow or other she gave me that privilege darshan. And I don't know how long it took. That meeting was over. She called me. Then Nava was also called in because she spoke in French. So Nava said he doesn't speak French. Okay. So she asked me, what shall we call it? No discussions. So I said, the thing that came to my mind, I said, Aurobindo service. She asked for a sheet, A3 sheet, Auro service with the blessing packet. That's how Auro service was born.
I see.
Later on, Sushila told me, it was Nava's secretary at that time, that she had made number of comments on the margin, and she knew exactly what was the purpose. So Nava, there may have been many faults with him, but his faith and trust in mother was absolute. You know what he did? He gave me a power of attorney completely for Sri Aurobindo Society and Aurobindo, and made me the director of Auro service.
I see.
Absolute power of attorney to buy and sell, to open accounts, to do whatever I wanted to. Only mother's grace could have done that. I could say that from my side, I never abused it, except once. That is when there was a dispute between the society and Aurobindo. He had pulled back all his resources from the... I created a trust called Auro Service, the Aurobindo, to support the Auro Future, Lavanya, the Aurobindo at that time. And it was under that trust that we took up the assignments of Salem Steel City, of Kudremukh Iron Ore, Vijayanagar Steel, and so on and so forth, to get the Lavinier running. While part of it went to Puttus for maintenance and things like that. Okay. Now this gave me a little more close contact with the mother, because now allowed me also to report on my activities to the mother. So every now and then when I came, what I had done in Bihar, what I had done in Orissa, what I had done in West Bengal, Assam, because that was the area I was initiating and things like that. Yeah. And that is when she became familiar with my name, I mean, she started calling me by name. Before that, I was just a person. And then I renewed my request again. Mother, can I come? And she asked me in one of these meetings, why do you want to come? I've given you an assignment, and it is better that you nourish it from outside. And she waited for a minute and said, here, they'll perhaps kill the project.
Here?
Perhaps they'll kill the project.
Oh.
These words later on helped me in understanding why she had to make committees of various people in various states for coordinating activities. Mother Society, Shavando Society, the World Union, and this and that. She had formed coordinating committees to stop them from fighting with each other.
Much of this is very new to me. Now, I must ask about your wife and children again.
Okay. Now, so when I asked this question again, she asked me question in return. Why are you keen to come here?
Mm-hmm.
And my response was, Mother, my job involves giving bribes, and I don't like it. She looked at me, and she had the habit of holding your wrist. Okay, held my wrist and says, so you are a superior being. It was always like this. Okay, no more questions. Then I discussed it with Nama, because he was my contact at that time. So he raised the question. He says, how about your wife? She's not been here. So don't you think that this could be the problem? So I talked to my wife and I said, next time I go to Pondicherry, please come with me. So there was vacation in the school, so the children also came. So she spent some time here, looked at the things and all that. And then she says, you take the children back. I mean, Anjali, my daughter, was at that about 1 year old. So she says, Anjali, I will stay back. So you can take the children back, the boys back. So I was very happy in a way, and she got a job to look after the seaside guest house. They had just purchased the property.
I see.
So she was the first caretaker.
That was the old seaside guest house.
That's right. Okay. Now, on my usual visits, I'll ask her, when do you come back? Do you want to accompany me? No, not for some time, not for some time. 4 months. I felt happy. So I telephoned her and I said, why don't you write to the mother to ask for the children to be admitted in the school?
All the children?
2.
Well, the 2 boys.
2 boys, that Vinny and Naveen.
Yeah.
Okay. And she telephoned me, yes, mother has said yes. I didn't think twice. The next morning, the same friend who had brought me first to the mother.
Originally.
Yeah. I bought a ticket for him and for my children. I said, take them to Pondicherry. So for me, my prayers were answered, and I'm sure that next time she will say yes to me. Now, this was in 72. No, 71. 71. Okay. And then when I come here, I'm waiting for the children to come from the school. And I'm not asking my wife, but I'm just anxiously waiting. And then I suddenly had to ask, where are the children? Oh, they're in Aurobindo. So I said, what? No, mother said that these children are meant for Aurobindo now. So this was another step towards Aurobindo. And in 72, there was a conference called here by MP Pandit, Renaissance of India. And I felt that this was an opportunity perhaps to talk to all these groups of ashram oriented to see if they can come on the same page. So I went to Nalnida and I said, Nalnida, this is the idea I have, and my experience tells me that we are creating a very, very difficult situation in various parts of the country by fighting amongst ourselves. And all coming from in the name of ashram, it doesn't augur very well for, okay. So he says, Pashi, you can try, but you know, all these young people are incorrigible. This is the word he used, incorrigible. But mother's blessings are with you. I mean, he never said my blessings, he always mother's blessings with you. Go and try. So I went first to Madhava. So I said, I have spoken to Nandita and he feels that it's a good idea that before the conference that at least we should get together and have one common voice. He said, it would be a good idea. Yes. Okay. Udar, yes. Nawa, yes. So I went round. Babaji from Odisha, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So everybody was on the page. I was very happy. So I went the second round. So I said, what about these coordinating committees? What do you mean? I said, I want to know how can we function in various parts of the country. Where is the core issue where there have been disputes? Okay. So Madhav was the first one to share it with me. He says, you know, that Nava takes the lion's share as far as collections are concerned.
Okay, well that's understandable.
Okay. And
Takes it, you mean, for mother?
for the mother, but as far as they are concerned, it is not their contribution and Nava's contribution. Okay. So he's getting the credit.
Okay.
So I said, well, why not we work out on a formula that everybody gets equal kind of opportunity, that whatever is collected by the state's units is through the coordinating committee, where the 50% remains with the service or the branch or the unit that is responsible for bringing the contribution. 50% goes to the ashram, where 25% goes to the ashram kitty and 25% goes to the Aurobindo. Yes, fair enough. So I went round. Will Nava agree? This was everybody's question. Finally,
They told you directly.
Yes. So finally, I went to Nava and I said, this is what I've been doing. And the question is, will you agree? Oh, this is all what they want. Yes. Okay, went back. Because what happened was that when I went back to Calcutta, I mean, now I was known to be associated with the ashram and Aurobindo. So I was being invited to various functions. Mother's birthday, Sri Aurobindo's birthday, and so on and so forth. And in some of the cases, they'll ask me to hoist the flag, and so on and so forth. And I found there was a tremendous devotion in Orissa in particular, and in Bengal. And the next thing happened was that they started touching my feet. I didn't know how to answer that. Okay. And I said, well, if I'm becoming another guru. So I found a trick. I used to smoke. So the moment I'll come out of the premises, I'll light up a cigarette. They stopped inviting me. I was so happy. In the meanwhile, my wife finally went back, and I received her at Howrah station, and I said, well, how was it in Pondicherry? I never want to go back.
She said that.
And she cried and cried. I never want to go back. Strange behavior, because you spent almost 4 months there, and now you have this reaction, and she would never explain why. I didn't pursue it further, but I thought perhaps this is the reason. My mother saw that she was not ready. So in her own knowledge, I mean, she would know, and this was my belief. Okay. So when she's ready, we'll go. And on my side, I was getting a little desperate, to be honest with you. Because in the meanwhile, 72 centenary year, by chance it so happened that central government had appointed a celebration committee with Indira Gandhi as the chairperson. And a request had gone to all the states to celebrate centenary year officially by the chief ministers and the government and all that. So Dr. Karan Singh was requested to organize it in Jammu and Kashmir, since he was at one time the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. But he was politically not an acceptable figure at that time. So I heard the conversation sitting in Nawaz's house. So I said, if you don't mind, can I try? Do you know anybody in Srinagar? I said, no. Well, I'll find my way. For Nawaz, it was very convenient because I was not asking for any travel expenses. I was not asking for any funds, and he says anything is worth trying. Okay, so I was taken to the mother, and he is volunteered to organize the celebrations in Jammu and Kashmir. So mother gave me the blessings, and I went to Srinagar to meet the chief minister. Didn't know anybody there at all. But I had good offices of Talwarji. So he had more or less briefed all his branch managers that anybody coming from the ashram needs help, give it to him. So I used Raj Talwar's name to the State Bank's manager there. And I said, well, I'm new to the place. I want to meet the chief minister, but at the same time, I want to meet some prominent citizens also, if you could help me. So he mentioned a name and telephoned the person and said, somebody has come from Sri Aurobindo Ashram and he would like to speak to you. So these people, it was a Punjabi family, but settled in Kashmir, Sethis. So they had the Northern Railways concession for because at that time there were no railways in the Jammu and Kashmir. So they had the concession to transport the railways materials and so on and so forth. And very prominent, very well known. One of the daughters of family was married to Biju Patnaik, the chief minister of Orissa. So they welcomed me and they asked me not to stay in the guest house, but instead come and stay with them, which was very kind of them. And I told them there's a problem, and they said, well, it is very difficult because I don't remember the name of the chief minister anymore. He was called he was called the Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, not chief minister at that time. So I took a taxi and went to the place that he was living in. So I requested at the guard room to meet him, but gave the purpose. So they sent my card in, and I got a response that he's not feeling well. Come another time. And I was debating in my mind what to do. Go back to Delhi, go back to Calcutta. What shall I do? In the meanwhile, I heard a very urgent conversation between the guards. There was kind of a movement. I said, what is happening? No, our Prime Minister is going to Delhi. It's not well, he's going to Delhi. Came and sat down in the taxi and waited. So when his car moved, I followed it to the airport. This is the adventurous part of it. I was lucky to get a ticket in the same flight that he was flying. And once the flight took off, the person was sitting next to him. I requested him to give me the seat because I have a few words to speak to him. And I sat down next to him and I said, sir, I had come all the way to see you in the morning, but I was told you were not well. And then suddenly you have to go to Delhi. This is the purpose that I have come for, and I needed your help. Please don't bother me, I'm not interested in these things. I said, fine, I have no problem. But sir, I believe you're going to see the Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi. But of course, what do you think I'm going to Delhi for? So I said, well, I'm going to the same address. I think we can sort it out there. This was a dare. Because I knew officially she was the chairperson of What do you want? I said, if you would be kind enough to give me a reference, if I could see any of your colleagues to make the arrangements whilst you are in Delhi. So I will not bother you. So Deputy Prime Minister at that time, a gentleman called Dogra. So he gave me the reference. I said, could you give me a chit? Because he may not otherwise. So before he landed, I had a chit in my pocket. I spent the night in Delhi. The next morning, I flew back to Srinagar.
Fantastic. We'll take a few minutes break now and begin with part 2.